So here's our starter motor. You noticed I cleaned it up, painted it up, made it look a little bit nicer. But we do have a pretty big problem. It sat outside for way too long and it's rusted up. So you can barely even twist this piece. Gotta loosen it up a little bit, but that's still way too stiff. So we need to service these bearings that are in here, grease them up, that sort of thing. And I don't think we're going to have to replace any brushes or do anything other than just to clean it up a bit. So let's take this thing apart. Okay, so to take this whole top part off here, it's not like what you would think. You don't take this clip off. Well, you can do it that way, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. But what you want to do is, if you look close, you see a roll pin right there. And you need to set the end here on like a socket or something just to support it. So I just have this socket here to support this end piece because I'm going to be hitting this roll pin here with a hammer. So let's turn this so it's up and make sure that the end is supported here on a little socket. A little bit of penetrating oil here to help us out, if there is any way to help us. Alright, so make sure to use the right size punch. It's a pretty small one. So I just have the tip supported here with a socket, and we've put on a nice hard surface and give it a whack. Yep, it's moving. Kind of have to have everything all balanced here. I can see we're making progress. Here we go. So out pops our little roll pin, and then voila, this whole piece comes off like this and stays together, so that's nice. And you can reuse your roll pin. So once you have that off, this piece just normally lifts off of here, but we're pretty rusty, so might have to pry it a little bit. There we go. And you can see how that goes on. It's just a slotted circle, and the shaft has that slot there. Okay, so we can take this whole thing apart now. Alright, let's see what we have here. We have these two bolts on the end. Hopefully they don't break. Please don't break. Oh! Oh! Didn't break. Good. Let's go ahead and loosen up this other side too. There's just two of them. Now these are long bolts. They go all the way through and screw into the end cap here, and they basically, it sandwiches everything together. There's one. You guys might be surprised at what we find in here. It's pretty easy. Not many parts to it. A lot of them don't even have ball bearings. They just have like bronze races instead of bearings, which just need to be scuffed up, cleaned up, lubed up, and put back in, and they work just fine. So I'm hoping that's what our situation is here, is that this The starter motor was just locked up from sitting outside in the rain for too long, so it was rusty. Alright, let's see what happens. Yep. Okay. So that's a magnetic pull to get that sucker out of there. Those are your magnets. And looking down in there, the magnets are still good. And you can see your brushes down in there. So this end cap here should just come off. There we go. Yeah. So this is all we have here. The cylinder piece with your magnets. I'll remember it was that side up. And the magnets are still good inside there, you can see. And that was up, so I'm going to put it this way. And you can see our brushes here. I mean, they look to be in pretty good shape. They don't seem to be that worn down. And that in the middle there is our brass or our bronze bushing, which acts as our lower bearing for this shaft here. So we'll want to clean up the shaft. And inside this bearing here, sand it out and then lube it up. And then we're going to have to do the same with this top bearing. And this piece should come right off. So this is where we're locked up. I can tell it's very hard to spin. Okay. Come on. Okay. Yep. So that's, I believe, what you call your armature. And I don't see any problem with this one. It looks like it's in good shape still. Can clean up the brush side a little bit here. And we'll be cleaning off this shaft. You can see there is quite a bit of rust on the shaft here, so we'll want to sand that down with some fine grit sandpaper. And then most importantly, this bearing here in the top cap, which it looks like a brass or a bronze bushing. We also need to sand that out, clean it out real good, and lube it up. Maybe with a lithium grease. I don't know what the best grease is, but put it all back together and it's going to work perfectly. So on the armature here, this is the surface that comes in contact with the brushes. So you'll want to just clean out these little grooves with a, you don't want to scratch it, but you know, you want to kind of scuff it up, make it clean, and clean out all these little grooves. I have a plastic brush, stiff bristle brush I'm going to use here and just clean up this end. If you have some electrical parts cleaner, you can put that on there and clean it off that way. And this is where the bearing rides. You can see how it's kind of rusty, pitted up, so you want to sand that with a real fine grit. You don't want to scratch anything up, you just want to remove the rust. So look at that, looks 100 times better already. Oh, I just noticed there is a thrust washer on here, so don't lose that. So we're good on that end. Let's go ahead and clean up this end. This end wasn't that rusty. I have some sandpaper rolled up here. Poke that down inside the bearing. Clean it out, sand it out. This wasn't the one that was in bad shape though. It was the top cap. So let's focus on this one. It really doesn't take much to clean these up. As I said, I'm just going to scuff up the brush surface a little bit so it's nice and shiny. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing does. So what we need to do is poke these little brushes back in, and basically we're going to have to hold all 4 of them in at the same time while we drop the armature down on it. Hold them in place. Can you do it? Yeah, you could do it. It's just kind of hard. Let's see. What's the best way to do this? Let's just put this thing on it. And just do one at a time here. One side at a time. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Well, it's definitely a tricky part, getting this armature in place and pushing down all of these brushes. So I think I decided the way to do this is to just set this thing on here and work your way around pushing these little brushes into place. One at a time. That one's in. That one's in. That one's in. Alright, well I finally got it just by kind of doing one at a time here as I was putting this armature on. So we're on. Now you just have to hold it down. And yeah. And this piece, oops, don't let it pull it out. There we go. Which way did this go? I think it went like this. Put some white lithium grease on the shaft here. Everything seems to be going back together nice and easy. That's how I like it. Sometimes this can be a little tricky lining things up here. There we go. I bet you'll be able to turn this thing with ease now. Yep, that's what you want. I'll also sand the inside of this gear a little bit just so everything works smoothly. So basically all we're doing, folks, is removing a real light layer of rust that was on everything. And by doing that, suddenly all the pieces work smoothly again. And you can see it doesn't take much. Now if this gear accidentally comes off, You just want to make sure that you put it back on with the yeah. So this gear was on upside down because you want to put it on. You have a little tapered side. This side is just a flat tooth, but on this side, I don't know if you could see it, but the teeth are actually tapered. So they had this together the wrong way. And you can see, if you look close, you can see the teeth were starting to get damaged because of that. So let's just put this on the right way. Actually, I'm going to clean this off too. So as I was saying, this goes on with the tapered side of the tooth up, because that's what engages with the ring gear. A little more white lithium grease, and we'll put this baby back on. Remember it as a slotted circle here that goes on, and then that, and we hammer our roll pin. Now you got to look closely at roll pins because they usually have a tapered side. That is the side that goes in first. And if you get it in the wrong way, it can be a real pain in the butt. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but that side of this pin is tapered, so that's the side we'll try and hammer in here. And so you just have to line up the hole. That in place. Hammer this dude the rest of the way in. And you hammer it about flush, I believe. One more whack. There we go. We are back in action, folks. Look at how easy it turns now.